The following presentation is a production of Ride the Wave Media.
We are those guys. We hope to be your guys, bringing you the latest from the National Football League. Week 2 in the books. We've got a Thursday night AFC East division rivalry tonight, which we will get into later. Nick Ferguson. There he is, former 10-year NFL safety, and fresh from his Broncos home opener. Nick, what's going on, my man? Good to see you.
Good to be seen, man. Broncos home opener, and it was great to see so many former Broncos and just be around the Broncos fans once again. That's the great thing about living in Denver, being a former player. You get a chance to interact and exchange some salutations with some fans, but also see some old faces as well.
Well, you talk about when the team was a lot better than the current edition that we're seeing right now. But that being said, your guy, Justin Fields, efficiently dispatching your Denver Broncos. It's the silver lining, right? A guy you went to bat for. Unfortunate to do against your team, though, on the other end.
You know what? I like Justin Fields. I've always liked Justin Fields.
That's my point.
And for me, it was, it was good to see him go out there and move the team down the field. Was it like 300 yards he threw for? No. But what it goes back to is how the Steelers, for most of their franchise history, have won a lot of games. You run the ball, you have decent competent quarterback play, and you play great defense. And that's kind of been a recipe for success for them. What might be happening, and I'm thinking it's going to happen here, with Russell being out for an extended period of time with that calf injury, I believe that Fields is doing enough for Mike Tomlin to say, well, you know what, we're going to stick with Fields until something goes wrong. But now if Fields has another game where we see him not pass for a lot, that may allow Russ to keep his foot in the door. But as it pertains to how the team is doing right now, I think they should just go ahead and stick with Fields. Well,
shout out Blaine Nicholas, our overlord here at Ride the Wave, who called Chris Boswell to be the MVP this season. He continues that trend. Meanwhile, you're right with Fields. I mean, we learned that the calf injury is going to remain a part of the equation, and Mike Tomlin, simple decision, just go with the healthy quarterback, especially the one that's not turning the football over while maintaining some efficiency with that running game. 13 completions, 20 pass attempts for 117 yards. Meanwhile, they run the ball 36 times for 141 yards. So that is an equation while the defense holds up their end of the bargain, keeping the Broncos out of the end zone. Nick, I'd be remiss not to put a bow on your home opening experience. I learned from the Pittsburgh Steelers that they give out petty game balls. And Russell Wilson getting that game ball in a game where he suited up because he's a maniac and an emergency quarterback, I understand. But wearing the shoulder pads, not getting in any action, your game ball goes to Russell Wilson against his former Denver Broncos.
Yeah, usually that happens. And I knew Mike Tomlin being Mike Tomlin, he would definitely do this. And like Phil said, they wanted to win for Russell, even though Russell suited up and he wasn't expected to play, being the emergency third quarterback. But this is something that happens around the league when the player plays against his former team. His teammates want to make sure that he has a great showing. Sometimes it doesn't always end up that way statistically, but if you beat your old team, it is something to somewhat celebrate. And really think about, what's happened with Russell since he left Seattle, and being here in Denver and hearing the people kind of throw negative narratives out there about who he was as a person,
right?
Also as a player. So you had to figure everything was leading up to this particular week. When the schedule came out and everyone saw, wow, the Broncos are going to play the Steelers. There were so many alumni with ticket requests because they wanted to be in town for this particular game. But the fans felt as though, Alex, they were a little deprived because they really wanted to boo Russell. And the only opportunity they got a chance to boo him was when he came out for the coin toss. And I felt as though that was a strategic ploy by Mike Tomlin to say, you know what? Yes, we're going to make Russell one of the captains so he can go out for the coin toss.
No, good on Tomlin. And it's about playing the game of chess inside the game of football. And you give that
Yes.
advantage to Mike Tomlin, which is one of numerous reasons. Again, talk about that defense, that he has never had a losing season in his head coaching career. Uh, let's put a bow on week 2 and kind of dive in with the last game of the week before we, kind of zoom out, look ahead to week 3 and understand that we have twice as much data in terms of games being played compared to where we were on this pod exactly a week ago. So, Nick, the Atlanta Falcons pull out a victory, or maybe more appropriately, the Eagles snatch defeat from the jaws of a victory on Monday night when the Eagles are up 21-15. They have the football and begin their drive on the Atlanta 39. And again, they take advantage of the defense stopping the Falcons from trying to tie this game, right? It was a 3-point game at the time. They get down to the 10-yard line and they call for a Saquon Barkley swing pass that he drops, and ultimately they kick the field goal to go up 6 with 1:39 left in this game. 6 plays, 70 yards in just a minute. The Falcons retake the lead, pick off Jalen Hurts on defense, and there's your ball game. So the decision to throw in that situation, they got a wide open Saquon Barkley. He doesn't drop that ball. We're probably not talking about this, but Nick Sirianni's decision to kick when they're up 3 points to make a 6-point lead. Your thought process there from the Philadelphia Eagles head coach, is a 6-point lead maybe less safe than a 3-point lead when we saw this Monday Night Football game?
See, Alex, I have kind of toyed with this for a while, and I'll say this. I don't blame Sirianni for doing what he was doing, because he couldn't have predicted that things were going to unfold the way that they did. And even though, like you said, Saquon catches that pass, we're not even having this conversation.
Right.
Right. And then also, too, this is the reason that you brought over Vic Fangio. This is where you need your defense to show up when they need to stop Kirk Cousins from moving the ball down the field. Now, hindsight being 2020, maybe Sirianni would do things differently. But like I said, there's no way he was going to be able to pretty much predict things would unfold the way that they did. And how many times do we see it, and teams may make this type of decision? Well, you know what? We're just going to go ahead and take the points. They could have gone for it. And what happens if they go for it and they fail? Now that is a topic of conversation. But then you play and you lean on your defense because you're playing at home. Right. This is where home field advantage is supposed to come in. But things didn't fall that way for Sirianni or the Philadelphia Eagles. But me personally, I don't have a problem with him taking the points in that particular situation.
Now, I don't. Where am I going?
Have I changed your mind? Have I changed your mind?
Absolutely. I mean, I'm not. I can understand the thought process, but given that this defense had blown 3 late leads last year, right? They were 10-1. That first loss came to the New York Jets when Zach Wilson engineered a 2-minute drive. They lost to the Cardinals at the end of last year when Kyler Murray was able to engineer a 2-minute drive. This is a team that has had a tendency to give up these late leads. And I understand it's your home opener. You rely on that defense. But at the same time, that offense clearly drove down the field and maybe in 4-down territory could have put that game away for sure. That's one piece of it. The other piece of it, Nick, is with a change in the kickoff rule, right? They kick the field goal and the Falcons start the ball at their own 30-yard line. Now you're talking about with where the kicking game is at, they have to get the ball to maybe the 40, 35-yard line. So the Falcons there have 60 seconds not to score a touchdown, but 60 seconds to just get to field goal range when they're down 3. I think there's a huge difference in starting them back at the 10-yard line. Let's say they go for it on 4th down and miss. Falcons now start at the 10 instead of the 30-yard line. It's just hard for me to expect a football team to play with the aggressiveness and when they're only in need of a field goal compared to when they need a touchdown. Down 6, that team is going all out, taking bigger risks, bigger chunk plays to get the football down the field as efficiently as possible in under a minute. I think it's human nature, Nick. If they get in the field goal range, and we saw Younghoe Koo is one of the better place kickers in the National Football League. If they get that ball in the field goal range, I think we're playing for overtime. Again, Saquon Barkley catches this ball. We're not talking about this. But I think there's a mentality shift when a play caller knows they need 6 as opposed to when they need 3. That's my biggest problem with Sirianni's decision to settle for the field goal when they did.
Well, yeah, I mean, Alex, that is true. You want to put the pressure on the opposing offense to force them to have to score a game-winning touchdown instead of kicking a game-winning or game-tying field goal. But keep this in consideration. Okay, when you get into the red zone, we call low red zone. To me, the advantage goes to the defense because you have less room to operate. I mean, Saquon Barkley just dropped the pass.
Right.
So the idea is that the defense already knows this is the final down you have. So you have to make a play for the red zone. So now you stop them and the Eagles don't score. That becomes a bigger issue and topic of conversation. Why did he go, the Sirianni go for in that particular situation, come up with no points at all instead of taking a point? But once again, I go back to this is why football is the greatest team game ever, because you want to be able to put pressure on your defense to say, you know what, go win us the freaking game. And all you have to do, regardless of where the Falcons receive the ball, can you get a 3 and out, right? Even if they get the first down the first time on that second series, can you get a 3 and out? The defense did not get a 3 and out. So we can look and see, well, blame Sirianni for what he did. But now while you're doing that, you're taking the onus off of your defense, and I'll put it right back in your ballpark.
Yep.
See, there was a team up in New England, and their head coach was a defensive-minded coach. They wanted that smoke, right? They wanted to be put in that position where they had to stand up and make a defensive play, right? That's why the Patriots were always in the conversation for almost over 20 years. But the Philadelphia Eagles, with the defensive coordinator who was brought in for this purpose.
For that purpose.
Matt Patricia could not get it done. So how can we just put all the blame on Sirianni in that situation? That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I'll put the blame on Kellen Moore too. 3rd and 3, if you're playing for the field goal, might as well be running the football and make sure that you run as much clock as you can, right? Because even if you get stopped and you've got 4th down, the Falcons are getting the ball back with under a minute as opposed to a minute 40. And it took them a minute 5 to pick apart Quinion Mitchell, attacking that rookie DB to get down the football field. But again, I think compared to where we were a week ago, I had questions about Kirk Cousins playing under center, utilizing play action. And on the Falcons' opening drive, what do? Under center and play action. So he's clearly not all the way back, but a huge strides were made, I think, for Kirk Cousins in showing that he can actually perform an NFL offense, as opposed to, we talked about 2 looks, 1 look they were passing, 1 look they were running. So it's much better, I think, than where we were a week ago.
I'll add this to it as well. You're absolutely right. Kirk Cousins, that's his bread and butter, playing on the center. That's where you open up more play action. But the thing that helped him out was Bijan Robinson actually had a fantastic day receiving out of the backfield, but also running in between the tackles and outside, which opened play action and really took a little away from what Vic Fangio wanted to do against Kirk Cousins.
Let's talk about, after doing some on-field coaching decisions, some off-field coaching decisions, the Carolina Panthers, with where they are, 18 games and 3 head coaches into Bryce Young's career. He is benched in favor of Andy Dalton. The decision to bench Bryce Young, Nick, and more importantly, Dave Canales' role, who becomes head coach, I believe, telling the media when he got the job, it was about the reclamation projects and Geno Smith and Baker Mayfield, who played, and now Bryce Young is going to stay in Carolina, but learn underneath Andy Dalton.
Well, to be totally honest, I didn't like this play because you want to give Bryce Young, even if you wanted to do this after week 3, I would have been okay with it. But it's only week 2 and a small sample size. And Dave Cannell has just arrived there as a head coach. And then more importantly, when you think about Bryce Young, yeah, first round draft pick, number 1 overall, I believe.
Yep.
And what was he surrounded with, right? You get rid of DJ Moore, Brian Burns, your excellent edge rusher. You trade him to the New York Giants. So
Right.
you are emptying the cupboards for a rookie quarterback that's coming in. We know rookie quarterbacks struggle. And oh, by the way, your top receiver, Adam Thielen, right now at this stage of his career, will probably be the number 3 or number 4 option on any of the other 31 teams. So did the Carolina Panthers actually set Bryce Young up to be successful? And the answer to that question is absolutely no.
No, right. Consistency and infrastructure is everything that a young quarterback needs. Establishing tendencies and developing relationships, and to constantly change the deck chairs as much as David Tepper has decided to do. I'm not going to defend Frank Reich's job or Matt Rule's for the time that they were working with Bryce Young. But that being said, Canales is your guy. You bring him in as the quarterback whisperer, and his decision 2 games into the season, it comes down to he's saying a better opportunity to win football games. And, I think it's understandable that there are other players on this football team outside of Bryce Young. If Bryce Young is struggling to operate in that offense, if there are other pieces that need to develop as well, Andy Dalton can at least get you in and out of plays, execute the offense. And there were some poor decisions that Bryce Young made on the football field that you're not going to see from a veteran like Andy Dalton.
Well, see, that's kind of the concept, because Andy Dalton is in the role of a backup, right? And usually what happens is we love and we praise the backup. We hate the backup at the same time, but we love and praise them when they have to actually come in for the starter who may be struggling or the starter that's hurt. And then we go, yes, he made the right pass. He made the right read. They scored a couple of touchdowns. And until that next week, when that following defense has a time to break down that backup quarterback and they don't perform the way that they performed in previous weeks. And keep this in mind, Andy Dalton is a former first-round quarterback himself. Who was just
I think second round.
Okay, I'm sorry. Okay,
Yeah.
pick second round. But either way, he was considered to be a top quarterback at one point, but now finds himself in a familiar backup role. So this would be the best casting of Andy Dalton to come in and be the heir apparent to one Bryce Young, but still at the same time, just because you change the quarterback, you don't change the theme of the team. I mean, your offensive line is not blocking well. I mean, the Saints destroy them. And then offensively, who are your weapons? Who are you getting the ball to, right? Can you run the ball? Do you have balance? So, yeah, throw Andy Dalton in there. And I guess because he's a backup, things are going to look a little different. But really, is it going to change the overall look of the Carolina Panthers? You know what that's like, Alex? That's like having a house that's really decrepit, right? And you say, you know what?
Can't relate.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to change some of the shingles. We're just going to fix the curb appeal. But when you walk inside the house, it's still a freaking disaster. That is exactly what the Carolina Panthers are doing by putting Andy Dalton out there.
And that's the thing about young quarterbacks, Nick, is that the infrastructure, everything that needs to be put in place takes time. And you'd think over the course of a full off season, now 2 weeks in, they've decided to pull the plug. And look, they're not the only team that is going to end up benching their young quarterback this season. We have 3 rookies that are constantly playing now. We have other young quarterbacks in year 2, even year 3, that there's still some more time and development that needs to take place. And a large part of that, Nick, is that passing overall in the NFL is down. Passing yardage, passing touchdowns. We're looking at a running and kicking football game that, the sickos like Nick Ferguson are just so thrilled to see, right? The few and proud. But Nick, this isn't just a Bryce Young or a Caleb Williams or Will Levis or Bo Nix problem. Overall, 2 weeks into what seems to be a unique NFL season, the emphasis on running the football, where are you sort of identifying, at least so far, what's been a different season compared to the first couple of weeks in years past?
Well, it's how running backs are utilized and deployed. You look at other teams with versatile backs that can both catch the ball out of the backfield, but also run the ball between the tackles. Think about J.K. Dobbins, who plays for the Chargers, right? Mm-hmm. When J.K. was at Ohio State, he was a dynamic player, which made him a key player to be drafted by the Baltimore Ravens. Injuries derailed that, but he's revitalized himself with the Chargers because his head coach, knows how important running backs are because he had a guy by the name of Blake Corum in his backfield at Michigan. So what you do, and here's what we're not seeing. We're not seeing teams show a lot of creativity with running backs that are dynamic because we see guys and head coaches or offensive coordinators, that is, trying to run into the teeth of the defense. And this is what when you watch football, you always talk about the box. Well, what does the box mean? You look at those offensive linemen, then you look at the defensive linemen in front of them, and then you say, well, who's 5 to 6 yards behind them? That's the linebackers. If you have a favorable box, and what I mean by that, you have one linebacker in the middle because you use your receivers and tight ends to flex them out. Now you can run because football is mathematics, right? You want to run where the numbers are greater. But if you have a crowded box, why are you banging your head against a wall, a cement block? No, run outside. You know why, Alex? There are less players outside. This is why when you look at Kyle Shanahan and what he's been able to do, Jordan Mason, 146 yards in the first week against the Jets. Why? Because they run an outside zone. They're running where there are less people, allowing their tight ends and the receivers to block instead of trying to say, you know what? I'm going to be stubborn as a coach. We're going to get those 4 yards, even if we got to run through defenders. Look, that's insanity. That's freaking insanity. But this is why we're not seeing, more teams be more successful, especially in the pass game, because you can't establish a run and play action is not readily available to you.
Right. And you're just, again, taking advantage of what the defense gives you. So you mentioned Vic Fangio, plenty with that Eagles defense. If their goal is to keep the ball in front of their secondary, then you just take what's underneath, which are chunk plays and running the football. The Green Bay Packers are a perfect example. No Jordan Love, apparently no problem. They're just going to run the ball 53 times and ask Malik Willis to just keep from turning the football over. And now he's got a revenge game against his Titans. I think a game ball is going to him from Mike Tomlin if the Packers do pull that out.
The petty game ball.
Hey, Nick, before we split, let's talk about some pettiness in the AFC East. We've got the Patriots and the Jets later tonight. Battle of 1-1 teams, the lone primetime game for the New England Patriots. That's a smart decision by the TV executives. But you've got Aaron Rodgers. The last time that he had the home opener at MetLife Stadium, he had 5 snaps, 4 football snaps, and then the snap of his Achilles. And I am now turning. It's not an Aaron Rodgers game. This is a New England Patriots offense that is top 10 in rushing, facing a bottom 5 rushing defense in the New York Jets. You talked about the emphasis of running, taking what the defense gives you. And this, to me, just screams of a run the damn ball matchup. Jacoby Brissett going to bring back that hat he wore when he was a member of the Indianapolis Colts. Because from my standpoint, Nick, how do you see this game? I think it's just keep away from Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, it's going to be keep away for Aaron Rodgers. And with that being said, it seems like everything is leaning heavily towards the Patriots based on how they've been able to run the ball, and the Jets have not been able to stop the ball. And also with C.J. Mosley being questionable for tonight's game, you have to figure that is going to change what Robert Saleh wants to do defensively, which will put an enormous amount of pressure on his front four to be able to slow down the New England Patriots. But even with that being said, I'm still going to lean heavily towards Aaron Rodgers, right? There's no way you're going to tell me that the Patriots have a quarterback that can contend with what Aaron Rodgers can do. And I know, the last time we saw Aaron Rodgers, he got injured at MetLife Stadium. Will that be in the back of his head? Probably. But, Aaron Rodgers is a gamer. He wants to come out and he wants to show people up. And I think he does that against the New England Patriots.
Aaron Rodgers getting the Nick Ferguson petty game ball. I think that's something we got to bring back every week, Nick. We'll identify one specific play from the game for the petty game ball. I love it. He's Nick Ferguson, 10 years in the NFL, including those years with the Jets. So he's got his allegiance come the game tonight. I'm Alex Hardy. We are those guys. We hope to continue to be your guys throughout the NFL season. You can find us Ride the Wave podcast on Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your pods, and on YouTube as well. So feel free to check in with Nick at Nick Ferguson _25 if you have any questions for him about your team, his team, and life in general. I mean, I got to lean on Nick constantly. So he's probably excited to hear from somebody else that isn't just little old me. Until next time, Nick, what do you have to say for the people?
Hey, we're heading into week 3. Don't punt on your team just yet. I would say punt on them after week 4, but it's week 3. Don't do it just yet.
Just give it a month. Just keep that bad relationship going for a month. That's all he asks.
Absolutely.